Joining us now is Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz. He was the first former teacher in 50 years to be part of a major party presidential ticket, and he's recently been barnstorming Republican congressional districts to highlight the unpopularity of Trump's agenda. Governor Walz, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Nice to be with you, Rachel.
What's your reaction to closing the education department today?
Well, we knew it was coming, but it's still a day that I dreaded. I dreaded it as a teacher, as a parent, certainly as a governor now. And the sad part for me about this is Donald Trump doesn't know anything about education. This has been a long-time dream of the far right to crush the public education system, to take that money and transfer it to private schools that don't exist in a lot of areas or rural areas, and to undermine some of the missions of the Department of Ed, making sure everybody gets an education regardless of race, religion, or abilities. Students like my son who depend on IDEA and individual education plans to make sure that they're treated equally and get the best possible education they can. That's a hallmark of America. I think America's great contribution to the world is our public education system. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't care. And I appreciate you showing that photo because it's so obscene that he would put a mock classroom. We all know he's never been in one. He wouldn't last for a minute. He's never done it. He's surrounded by people who know nothing about education. And they want to make this about bureaucracy and cutting. This is about children. This is about broadband access in their schools. This is about the research you were talking about, pedagogy, things that we learn. And then it's about the Civil Rights Department at the Department of Education that makes sure that we don't have a situation where a Ruby Bridges is escorted to school with police. And so we're back in an area where we can segregate. And he knows that curriculums and those decisions are made on a local basis, but they muddy the water. So look, just like your previous guest, thanks for having her on, but it's chilling. They don't care about law. They don't care about where the American public's at. And that kind of segues to why I'm getting out there. And there's a reason that these Republican Congress members aren't holding town halls, because this is so unpopular they can't defend it. But I'm going to make sure that the voices of their constituents are heard.
When you're doing these town halls, and I know you've done a number of them already and you have plans to do more, mostly going to places where Republican members of Congress won't hold in-person town halls themselves.
That's right.
Are you hearing about the Department of Education? Are you hearing about Social Security? What are the kinds of concerns that people are voicing to you when they have the chance to talk to you about this stuff?
Yeah, these folks and they want to be heard. I think a town hall is healthy. People say it in front of their neighbors. For example, I was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and a retired couple, both teachers, got up, and they talked about the times where in their classroom they provided a little extra money into accounts for kids so that they could eat. They're worried about that. They're worried about who's going to go into teaching when they see folks demonizing it. There's folks standing up, a woman with Parkinson's disease. Another that worried about his brother who needed special services through Medicaid. And they're terrified. They're terrified because of the chaos. They don't know what's going to happen. And there's no plans for this. They're not putting anything in place. We fire people, and then we hire them back. We get rid of people working on bird flu, and then we hire them back. It's all about chaos. And the thing that's most troubling to me is especially with this Department of Education move, this was all written down in Project 2025. This is a very, systematic effort to undermine us. But look, these are regular people standing up. I had a young airman, specialized service, flying on intelligence missions. She is not going to be able to serve because they have decided that they don't like who she is, simply who she is. And the spouses of service members who have all been fired. And you know how this works on military bases. The spouses usually work at the commissary, the hospital, the school, whatever it may be, and those have all been laid off. And so it just goes on and on. And again, you're hearing from folks, a lot of these folks are coming there, did not support Donald Trump, but a lot of them, even if they didn't support, said that we didn't know it would be this bad. Just the absolute disregard for folks who want to serve our veterans and can't. So it is a mess. I do believe, though, that I've been given a platform running, and the privilege of running with Vice President Harris, given a platform to list folks up, and they are coming out. These are folks that are coming out. They're making their voices heard, and these members of Congress are going to dodge it. And Donald Trump doesn't have to stand in front of the voters again, but these folks do. And we need to make it clear that this cannot stand. And we'll challenge them on all fronts. We'll challenge them in the court of public opinion. We'll challenge them in the courts. It's simply not what America's founded on. Again, I go back to that previous story with the attorney and the absolute disregard for all rule of law and human rights. This is stuff that Americans need to pay attention. I'm an optimistic person, and I'm not trying to, to paint this too terribly, but I think we have to assume the very worst in everything that this administration does, and we need to prepare for it.
Governor, since we've been on the air tonight, a story has broken in the New York Times, and it has broken since I have been on the air, and so I'm not fully read in on this, but I know that you've at least seen the headline, and I want to ask you just for your reaction to this. It's a pretty shocking story. The headline is Musk, meaning Elon Musk, set to get access to top secret U.S. plan for potential war with China. The lead is this. The Pentagon is scheduled tomorrow, Friday, to brief Elon Musk on the U.S. military's plan for any war that might break out with China. One official confirming to the Times that Musk is to be at the Pentagon on Friday, but offering no details. Mr. Musk, of course, has extensive financial interests in China, and so this, I think, is raising lots of alarm bells for a lot of different people. The Pentagon's war plans, known in military jargon as O plans or operational plans, are among the military's most closely guarded secrets. If a foreign country was to learn how the U.S. planned to fight a war against them, it could reinforce its defenses and address its weaknesses, making the plans far less likely to succeed. The top secret briefing for the China war plan has 20 to 30 slides that lay out how the U.S. would fight such a conflict. It covers various options on what Chinese targets the U.S. could hit over what time period. And these would be the options that would be presented to Mr. Trump for decisions. For some reason, they've decided to show Elon Musk this level of detail about a potential war with China while he operates the largest car factory, I believe, in China, and has immense financial interest in that country and contacts with that country's government that he has not disclosed to the U.S. as part of maintaining his security clearance. I just got to get your reaction to that, sir.
Well, speechless would be the word. I don't know how to convey. I don't possess the language ability to convey how far out of the norm this is. Like nothing that people listening, like, look, this is those of us who served, the background checks from the FBI, just to receive clearance as an artillery enlisted soldier was extensive to get that background. And then the level of information that you can get, or as a member of Congress, to be able to have access to this type of information. These are closely guarded secrets because our national and our global defense depends upon them. And once again, we have this, I don't know, the character, the world's richest man with the world's most fragile ego. And I don't understand where the Republicans, where are Lindsey Grahams, where are these people who know how this works to not be terrified of where this is at? And again, seeing the Commerce Secretary today tell people to go buy a specific stock, in not jesting, not in that. And look, I have to be very careful because I'll be candid, I think this guy is deeply damaged, a buffoon, but I also don't want to elevate him. He is unelected. He does not know how this stuff works. And Donald Trump is being reckless with the most sensitive data. So I want to try and provide some assurance to the American people. But I also think our leadership needs to be very clear about not sugarcoating this. And Donald Trump obviously disrespects the American public. He thinks they're not smart enough to understand this and doesn't care. I do believe the American public knows. And I do believe when they see stories like this, that this is why these town halls are growing so big. This is why folks are starting to question. And what I truly worry that I get sucked into, too, is they throw so much at it. This is the stuff that you should watch. This is the disappearing people, sharing our most guarded secrets on global conflict with a truly unstable private citizen who has no authority and appears to not care. So, yeah, I would just say this is chilling. I'm hoping that the resistance, and right now the resistance has to be in the Senate. Republican senators need to put a stop to this and pull this back.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, sir, thank you for making time to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
We'll be right back. Stay